Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg. It's coming to you on the 25th of March, 2021. Time on deck. It's 193700 hours Central Daylight Time. Now, I don't know when I'm going to post this video because YouTube has new algorithms for check-in, which my last video that I posted was intended for yesterday that I posted today, but we'll see. Anyway, all that said, what's going on, my friends? I've talked to you a lot about China. And China is the big 900-pound gorilla in the room. We can't ignore China today. China, as I have presented it, looks like the biggest threat to the world at this moment. So it's something we've got to be very wary of. Yet, this moment may not last. There may be a time when China collapses. It's no longer a threat. I'm going to go all into that. But the real danger is that when one knows that their time is short, they often take chances and do things they ordinarily would not do. When they know their time is short, when they know their window is closing, when they know the door is closing in front of them, sometimes they jump through that door. And therein lies the risk. We could actually literally sleepwalk into war with China, or we could wind up in war with them through several different scenarios right now, because there's several really hot spots in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and other places around the world, which could take us into a head-to-head conflict with China. And it may not be through cities trap that gets us there. It may be just the fact that their time may be short. Their window may be closed. And I saw an article referring to that a while back. I can't seem to locate that article right now, but just kind of, it reminds me of a song. The devil went down to Georgia looking for a soul to steal. He was behind, because he was in a bind. He's willing to make a deal. Or Revelations, there's a similar thing, Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he have but a short time. See, they understood that 2,000 years ago when these things were written. Human nature hasn't changed much, has it? Of course, then there's Revelations 13:1. And I stood upon the sands of the sea and saw a great beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. I've often wondered if that's not the red dragon. And who's the red dragon? What country identifies with the dragon? What country do we call red? Communist. Well, there you go. So guys, I'm bringing you this video today in the spirit of keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel. And I consider my subscribers swivel heads, because that's what we want to know, what's going on in the world. It's part of my proposition to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And we'll be talking about the hive, not just the future. I do videos on eating from the weeds and the trees, which is free. Gardening, something you need to do. I cover these things on my channel. I cover worm farming. But most of my videos of late have just been, we got so much going on. The world's got so active. I've doubled down on bringing you stories about what's going on domestically and internationally. Now, this platform don't like that. And they really spanked me hard for doing these kind of things, it seems. But in this video, I'm going to be very careful not to say anything that violates any standard they're in. But that don't matter. They're going to throw this in the check-in anyway. Hours and hours probably. But all that said, yeah, that's why you need to support this channel. First off, bang the subscribe to my channel if you've not already done so. Bang the update notification bell and click all, because that is the only way they're going to give you the notifications of my videos. Because I've tried to bring you a lot of content, a lot of information, like no other channel. But also, you can support me by doing things like shopping with PrepWithGreg.com. We have great deals. And in a survival situation, like if we get into it with China, we easily could be, because they could take out our power grid and do many other bad things to us. But you can get either a full 4-week supply, which is 2 of these buckets, a little better than 20% off, or you can get 1 of these buckets, which is a 2-week supply, for just a little less than 20% off of PrepWithGregs.com. This is 25-year long lasting food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 2,000 calories a day. It definitely will make you a winner, because this is real food. It's freeze dried, so it's lightweight. You can carry it around easily. And the packets are small enough that you can easily throw them in your backpack and make meals out of them if you're camping, or if you're bugging out with your backpack, I mean serious wilderness maneuver type bug out. Which I'll be covering that in the future too on this channel. Now, all that said, let's get into it. China has many problems. Demographic problems. It just so happens that China's population is dropping. In fact, China's population is dropping faster than any other country right now. Right now, their population is 4 times bigger than the United States. Their economy has been growing like gangbusters, and it's still doing, you know, in the face of the bug going around, they've done better than other countries in terms of economic growth, in spite of having had tremendous floods, which knocked their agriculture out for all intents and purposes to a large degree. Just set them buying food, and that's going to send food prices up. Another reason comes to stuff like this, and to buy seeds, of course. You check my links on Tree Leaf Market also to help me in that area. But all that said, now let's get on this story. The thing is that China is facing not only demographic problems, but their very attempt at growth could also backfire on them. They have a huge growth initiative, which would help grow their economy and enable them to pursue their say visions of expansion, peaceful or otherwise. I call them invasion roads. The Belts, you know, New Silk Road, which is the Belts and Roads initiative that China's embarked on under Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping. You know, he sees himself as the man who's going to accomplish China's goal of being the preeminent power in the world, maybe taking the world. He sees himself in that role, but they've got a short window. And some analysts say it may just be 4 or 5 years. They're expecting China to make some major moves. The first move may be Taiwan. But this Belt and Roads Initiative may also turn around and bite them because they've overextended in many ways. And their whole game is been to make loans to other countries to build all this infrastructure in their country, telling them they're helping develop their country, when indeed they're developing facilities for China. And they know going in, these countries can't make the terms of loans. These are not economically self-supporting things. And so China turns around, yeah, when China makes this country the loan to build these things, China is making sure that only Chinese companies are hired and workers to go build this stuff. So all the money's going back to China. And then on top of that, China, when the country defaults on the loans, has been going in and trying to claim the facility and just taking over that and other ports and facilities for said loans. But this has been happening a little too fast. A lot of countries are waking up. Kenya and Zimbabwe, other countries say, oh no, we see your game now. We don't want any part of this. You know, it all looked good. And America really should have considered a more balanced, similar approach than that, you know, to help all these third world countries way back. We could have done so much for them. But instead, our banksters just want to go in and pick everybody's bones clean all the time. Kind of like China in that regard. So I'm no fan of our banksters, if you haven't noticed. Of course, the banksters now want to take the whole world with something called you know what? Set, great, kind of backwards saying here. But anyway, so guys, I'm going to show you some articles on this stuff. But what's happening with some of these countries backing out, China's finding themselves a bit overextended before they thought. And so it's kind of backfiring a little bit on them. But the population drop is their main thing. Right now, they've got the people to carry forth their dreams. But you give them a few decades, it's not going to be there. China had hoped for the grand plan since they more or less took over mainland China and, you know, established the People's Republic of China. They had really hoped that in 1949, you know, they consider that their first year. They'd hoped by 2049 to basically have the world, but they may not have that long. And in fact, it's projected that the United States may actually be more populous than China 100 years at the end of this century, 80 years from now, maybe 79, because China's population, the newborn rate of birth, is dropping very significantly. All right, we're going all in. I'm going to show you some articles on this just to back this up, and we're just going to speed through them. But guys, the risk is this. The risk is that the tensions are really high right now with China. The risk for that they might get really adventurous is bigger than normal. So the risk for war, it may be really off the charts, but the hope is if we can just contain China and not go to war with them, if we can just say, whoa, we're not buying your junk. I'm going to go more into that at the end of this video. If we just contain China and say, well, we're going to hold you off. We're not going to buy your junk. We're not going to deal with you on these levels, and take the wind out of their sail economically and militarily. If you know, it might just prevent them from overreaching or jumping through that door. And if we can just prevent a war, guys, there'll be no winner. Yeah, China actually is all geared up like to take out one of our aircraft carriers, and I think they'd be like giddy with glee if they could pull it off. Oh, our Navy would go crazy. Our Navy would go nuts. I can't see that not escalating into a nuclear situation. And guys, China may not have, maybe, possibly not as many nukes as the United States, but they got enough, and they could take out our grid. Ladies and gentlemen, a war with China is a no-win. If it escalates to that point, it's no win. Now, I'm going to do some other videos coming up real soon on what war with China might look like. I've been reading through this and studying up on it for some time. What it might actually look like. There's not one answer on it. It's a spectrum. It may be a long-term thing. We get into it with China, it could be a long-term, nasty, nasty affair. Our real goal should be to stop that from happening. But at the same time, we need to contain China so they don't overreach in the next few years, so that some of these things don't come to pass. All right, more on that in a little bit. Let's first go through this articles here. So I'm going to show you some stuff. You'll see, this is Forbes. China has this 100-year marathon grand plan to basically take over the world by 2049. The anniversary, the centennial anniversary of their communist revolution. Bear in mind, the Chinese Party, Communist Party, is actually older than that, but they're not as old as the Republic of China, which is living in exile in the island of Taiwan or Formosa. So this article just kind of goes into Xi's vision of the Chinese Communist Party controlling the state and eventually influencing and controlling the rest of the world. Is clear. That's what it says, but it may not happen. Grand dreams of world domination are part and parcel of communist ideologies going all the way back to Karl Marx. You know, they always said, and I was always taught when I was a kid, that they believed that their philosophy could not exist unless the whole world were communism, because it just won't work as long as there's some other competition. Why? Because their ideas are so flawed. If anybody's got anything else to turn to, they're just starting to use it. But you know, they really believed in moral communism. That was the threat. It fueled our fears with Russia and the Cold War. But you know, this is we've lost our understanding of this basically these days. And so this is talking about how the Chinese manipulated Western politicians into thinking that China was evolving toward democracy and capitalism. You know, they had that, you know, lay low, be quiet policy until recently. Now they got now their economic powers got to a certain range. The sheep's clothing has come off, and we see the wolf that's China. Of course, now China talks about being wolf warriors. You know, they got that wolf warrior philosophy now. Well, they shed their sheep skin that they were hiding the wolf in. So what they did, it was always there, but to hid it. So, and it talks about how sometimes companies voluntarily gave them a lot of information in hopes of getting market share into China, but how that usually backfired, and China committed a lot of theft. So basically what this article here is saying is we gave China just about everything they need to achieve their goals, except they still may not do it. We still have an opportunity to thwart that and preserve freedom and not go into war. I'm gonna have to shrink this one just so I can hit these other tabs because Zoom is fighting me. So here's an article out of Time. And this article is dealing with how the U.S. could sleepwalk in the war with China. And it's just talking about, you know, China and the United States are on a collision course. No less authority than Henry Kissinger said just over a year ago, the U.S. and China at the foothills of the Cold War. So we see these kind of quotes in here. And again, I've talked about the city's trap many times in this in my channel here. Is elucidated by political scientist from Harvard, Graham Allison. Whenever a rising power, in this case China, confronts an established power, over the past 2,000 years, the outcome very often leads to war. I mean, we're talking about 75%. But it might be different now. It might be different. But see, this goes on to our freedom of navigation patrols and all these things at Taiwan. There's so many things that could initiate conflict. Here's, I already brought this up to say this. What I like in this article is the following. We say in the military, when you release ordnance and people die, everything changes. It's like kicking a door open in a very dark room. Outcomes have become much harder to predict. Larger strikes from either side could follow, as could a far broader cyber attack, perhaps even against critical infrastructure. Carrier strike groups on both sides could deploy head-to-head with even more significant losses. The temptation to employ a tactical nuclear, it says a tactical nuclear weapons, okay, bad English, perhaps at sea, thinking it can never then escalate to a strategic exchange might rise. You see what I'm saying? The path to escalation. Once you start it, guys, all bets are off as to what can happen. Like I said, if they sink a carrier, holy smoking guacamole. Yeah, it would be ugly. But here is also part of the threat and part of the hope at the same time, simultaneously. Population decline could end China's civilization as we know it. Well, I think that's a bold claim, but it might mean that they don't have the gas in their tank to take over the world. I think that's more likely. So, oops, what's all this? The seeds of crisis were sown by the development strategy that relied on cheap, plentiful migrant workers. And okay, now their children want to be like them, don't want to be like them, what I said. Again, this sounds familiar. The children in China would rather surf the internet than have children. Wow, that sounds familiar. Isn't that the kind of the striking thing of affluence? I love that graphic there. The Chinese government recently reported a sharp drop in registered newborns in 2020, 15% down from the year before. This follows 3 consecutive yearly declines, so 4 years in declines, but it doesn't mean you're losing 4%. Each decline is bigger than the one before it. It's like dropping off a rock. You see what I'm saying? This is going meow. Instead of a pandemic baby boom, hey, everybody's at home, so you think everybody's at home and ain't got nothing better to do. There'd be a lot of new babies, but nope. China seems to be having a baby crisis, far worse than the richer countries such as Japan and South Korea. Remember, we've been noticing how Japan's population has been getting older. A lot of people saying Japan is at risk as a nation because their kids aren't having kids and the folks are getting older, and so the demographics are getting upside down. And you're gonna have very few people supporting a lot of old people. Well, guess what? China, oh my gosh, it's going to happen in spades in China real soon. The total number of births in China for 2020 is likely to be significantly below 14 million. Wow. Compared to the average of 16.3 million over the past 2 decades. Okay. Don't take about a big, some percentage changes to have a huge outcome over time, my friends. And so, yeah, there's projections saying that the United States will be even bigger than China at the end of this decade. China has a closing window of opportunity to reach its geopolitical goals, says Gordon Chang. And Xi realizes he's got a problem with the economy. And so it's more, he's having demographic problems, economic problems. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are kind of reaching the end there. And this guy even goes on to say, Chang says, emphasize that China is our main adversary, and countries like Russia, Iran, North Korea are only able to challenge the international system because China gives them strength. So we're sitting there talking about Iran and Russia and all these other guys. Hey, without China, they're nobody. And China is on a short rope, it looks like, maybe. This is the China issue. It's not Iran, Russia. So But he goes on and on in here. They talk about, somewhere in here, he's saying that he believes that China has only got just 4 or 5 years to act to keep the, I believe it's in this article. I've seen them say this somewhere. China, yeah, somewhere he said, oh, here it is. If Beijing doesn't achieve its objective in, let's say, the next 5 years, there is no hope of them catching up or surpassing us. You know what? I just quoted several generals saying they believe that China would move on Taiwan within the next 4 to 6 years. I mean, this is an agreement here, basically. There's a lot of experts, and experts are there a dime a dozen all over the place, but they all fight each other. All these PhDs and experts always argue, but that's a striking agreement that some of them have, and it looks like there may be something to it. So this is an article wherein some of our military leaders are basically saying, hey, China may have a huge gross advantage with their Belt and Roads Initiative. We've kind of missed this. We need to take action to make up for our loss in this area in terms of political power and the soft power that China can wield through this. So this guy is really concerned that China's making huge inroads in the key regions and key countries. Yes, there are certain choke points around the world that controls trade and things like that. And this general is really worried about that. So, but that's not the only story. There's also this whole thing that could China's Belt and Roads lead to its undoing? See, there's a counter side of that. Hey, the roads of Rome, it says somewhere in this article that enable them to conquer the world, also enable the invaders to come in too and sack Rome. Some of my ancestors are apparently in on that. But instead of being a force multiplier of China, these policies will force dividers of international and domestic relations. So yeah, a lot of other countries are already getting dazzled by the corruption here. And as China finds itself more needing to support people internally, as the population ages, it's going to be harder for them to justify some of these adventures abroad. So money spent on the BRI, the Belt and Roads Initiative, is not spent on items that China lags on: healthcare and welfare spending. These threadbare policies are already fuel discontent. Already, that's interesting. Yeah, and the pandemic underscores the problems. China lacks the party, excuse me, competition, institutional flexibility to recover quickly if it makes mistakes. Yeah. China seems to be banking on two familiar logics that have not paid off recently. One is social, to know a country is to love it. But more we know about China, the less people are loving it. Interesting. It started working at first until they took the sheepskin off the wolf. Xi Jinping talks about his wolf warriors. Yeah, now we're seeing the wolf. By expanding the volume of interactions and exporting its culture, China will improve its soft power, and it did to a point. But now it's getting threadbare. But it has definitely not been true if in Chinese provinces like Tibet and Xinjiang. Yeah, this is where the Uyghurs live. And we know what's happened to the Uyghurs. It's been determined by the U.S. State Department that they're under genocide, and Tibet is about in the same spot. Nor has it been true farther afield in Kazakhstan, Kenya, Zambia, where BRI projects are facing growing scrutiny, skepticism, and hostility. Well, there you go. And then again, everybody loved the Confucius Institutes, right? But now not so much so. So there we go, my friends. European Union is starting to push back on China. Great Britain's pushing back. We've now had British aircraft carrier heading toward the South China Sea. Germany has been there. France has been there, along with the United States in freedom of navigation exercises. China's beginning to see the world is not exactly happy. So we'll see where this leads. But let me end this here. Let's just talk about the real solutions of where you can play into this. Our leaders need to be very careful not to get drawn into a war if at all possible. China may make that hard. We have treaties with nations like Japan. If Japan gets attacked or Japan gets into it over the Shinkow Islands or something like that, we may be there. Let's hope that don't happen. But that's a very, very raw powder keg right there. And of course, in the South China Sea, everything in the South China Sea, and the Philippines is not too happy with Japan right now. I mean, with China right now, and then Taiwan. Oh my gosh, Taiwan is probably the single biggest flashpoint because China thinks that's their ultimate thing. They have to take Taiwan. That's like their number one priority. Somehow they got to take Taiwan. And a lot of people in our military believe that if we don't defend Taiwan, we lose face with our allies. At the same time, if we defend Taiwan, it could cost us everything, our very lives, our nation. We could lose it all if we go into a full-blown nuclear war. Of course, the best defense for Taiwan is to help them defend themselves, to help them be such a prickly prickle pear or porcupine that nobody would dare want to take a bite. And that's the real hope for Taiwan. That we can put a lot of prickles on that porcupine, a lot of coils. Will it work? Don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know what happens if they get hit. How does the United States react? We've got to be very, very smart and very deliberate. Just like that other article said, once you kick that door open, holy smoke. You don't know how it's going to go. You have all kind of plans. The military likes to plan all kind of things. But once ordnance starts flying, things change in a hurry. Best laid plans of mice and men don't always well end. So we need to stay out of that. But we still need to contain China. We can do so through economic and political pressures. Excuse me, but I got to sneeze. In this case, they need SALES to fill their SAILS. Interesting. So, but that is the key right there. Worldwide, people need to think about toning down the Chinese stuff they buy. In some cases, you got to have something, and the only place you can get it from is there. Well, okay. Well, don't buy two of them if you can avoid it. Start looking for alternate sources as much as you can. Start trading outside of that realm. You know, there's a lot of good people in China, so I'm not trying to pick on the people of China. There's some Chinese people that I really think highly of. They live in mainland China. You know, I've dated it, you know, a lady who lives there, and I've got friends from, I've had Chinese friends from Indonesia and Taiwan also, and they're the same people. It's just, you know, one side's under a different government, and that's all. And there's good people anywhere you go in the world. That's my disclaimer. I should have said that up front. Good people anywhere in the world. It's just that the governance that's running them, it doesn't have the same objectives in mind as we would hope. Let's put it that way. It puts us at risk of grave conflict with them. But how you spend your dollar is going to have a whole lot to do with how much wind they have to push their programs, their agenda. It's also affects things like the stuff that our good friend Klaus Schwab was promoting. You know, it is a reset of greatness. I said it backwards, of course, but you know, Guys, your local economies. That's really good for the environment. So stuff isn't shipped all over the place. It's the best thing you can do for the environment, for your community, and also just to take the wind out of hegemonic sales of any type. Support small, support local as much as you can, and also encourage your politicians, your friends, your family, your neighbors. If you live in one of these other countries that signed up for Belt and Roads initiatives, I got watchers from around the world. Go talk to them and say, you know, we don't need this. Or if you're in a country where they're thinking about taking something like that on, yeah, get involved with your politicians. In a lot of countries, there would be a single politician that would make the decision to go into these kind of things, and they'd sell out their country and sell out mineral rights and port rights and fishing rights offshore. The individual get millions of dollars, and then they might just, some of these island countries, these guys just like disappeared. At the same time, the country signed all kind of deals to vote with China and the UN and all kind of stuff. But quite often, the other population, once they get wind of how they got sold out, is somewhat less than absolutely thrilled. Imagine that. So therein lies the hope, is to wake up, to wake ourselves up, to wake the neighbors up, for people in other countries to wake up. A lot of you travel, you go places, you talk to people, you got friends from these places. Some of you are there living in these other places. Spread the word. Share my videos. I've done tons of videos on China. Go in my channel and look around for them and share them. There's other videos like that too. Share these, get the word out that we need to be awake. We need to be aware. And you need personally to prepare, because we might find ourselves in a state of warfare. I hope we don't, because the consequences of that are far worse than you might imagine. You may be going, Greg, I'll be fine. I got my own solar array and I'm living up in the mountains. I'm off grid. I don't need nothing else. I got everything I need. Yeah, but when the fallout comes over your head, not just from the things they drop, but more so from the power plants that go pop, or even worse from the spent fuel rods when they go dry and burn fire and put into the sky, yeah, you're not going to be safe. It's not going to be pretty. There's nothing about warfare that's pretty at any size or scale. Innocent people are often the ones that lose the most. On both sides, there are innocent people there. There's innocent people here. And one other thing, some of you have taken it upon you to think that Asians are bad and out there attacking people. That is awful, people. That is awful. I'm told you a million times, there's good and bad people from every place on this planet, from every tribe, village, and hamlet, in every country, including, look, I've been to Russia. I loved it there. The people in Moscow treated me wonderful. And I had a great time in Moscow. I enjoyed that place. There's good people there. Good people everywhere. There's good people. Yeah, there's people, if you go anywhere in the world, there's people who give you that shirt off their back if you were in need of it. Now, it might be a little suspicious of who's this guy is for me, and he might stick you out. I stuck out in Russia. Those people like look at me, especially some of either they were mafia types or military types. I'd see a bunch of guys sitting around the table just staring at me. I never said a word. Never came at me. I made sure to leave them alone. So got staring right at me. I didn't say nothing. Big brows. I still had a great time. You just don't go poking the bear. Don't go causing trouble, guys. Hey, they left me alone. I guarantee you, they had their eyes open, and I don't blame them. Who's this man? Is he a spy? What's he doing over here? Is he one of them bankers over here looking to pick our country clean? No, I wasn't any of that. I was over hunting an opportunity. Working with Rock Cosmos at the time. It didn't pan out, but it could have. It would have been everybody's mutual benefit had it panned out, but it didn't. And because my little organization I was with had an internal strife problem. Somebody got greedy. The whole thing exploded. Oh, well, such is the nature of internal politics sometimes. Greed. Wow, it can be so destructive. So there it is. I've laid it all out. We can contain China if we do so carefully, mainly by limiting engagements, treaties, deals, maybe by embargoes to some degree, and just buying less of their junk. And, I worry a little bit because I don't want to starve the people in China. The people there are a lot of good people in China, just the same proportion as any other country. Be honest about it. There's as many good people there proportionally as any other place. But they have different leadership. That's the difference. That's the difference. And maybe they're a little brainwashed because all they hear is from one side of the news media, but that don't mean that their hearts are different. So, yeah, and don't be picking on people from any country, race, nationality. That's just so short-sighted and so ugly. It's not needed. It's not called for. If you have a disagreement the way things are going politically, then work it politically. There are ways to deal with things. If you think things aren't being fair, there are ways to deal with it. It may take a little time, but if your case is right in the end, be engaged in debates and discussions and put your viewpoint out there, but do so with a kind heart. Because in the end, we got a lot of ugliness in this world today. The best way to dispel darkness is with light, and the best way to dispel hate is with love. And I was very short on the latter. Oh yeah, well, I had a comment on my previous video where I was talking about what we need to do to limit acts of violence in this country that have been over the top of late. And I was talking about how we needed to help the kids. And this one commenter, who is actually an Asian lady who lives in America, she commented to the fact that the key thing is that kids up to the point of, now she's very well researched, by the way. She studies psychology very extensively. And she said, hey, the biggest thing is that kids form their relationships and their sense of love and charity basically by the time they're 3-year-old. The kids need a lot of nourishing and a lot of love from their parents up to that point, particularly the mother. And the work roles we have today, where women are going back in the workforce so soon, is really a detriment to that. So there you go. We need to work on our children. We need to give our children love and support. We need to nurture them. We need to nurture children everywhere. And, hey, go overseas, go to China and nurture children. If you give them a sense of love and care and compassion, then they're less likely to poke you in the eye. So there you go. My friends, there's beautiful people everywhere. People with good hearts. That's a good reason that we don't want to have a war. But it could come. It could happen. Very easily could happen. For that reason, you need to prepare yourself. You really do. You need to get prepared. These things could happen. I hope they don't. Because if they don't, we can have a bright future. Here's the thing. What's the matter, Mark? Let me emphasize this. With the imploding population of China, given time, if they can just hold them for a while, give them time, they won't have the wind in their sails. They'll never regain it to be able to become a major threat to the world. Yeah, they may still have a pocket full of nukes, but leave them alone. Don't poke their bear or the dragon. Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the dragon. If you leave them alone, they won't be a global threat once they get through this phase they're in. I don't think Russia would be a global threat if we leave them the heck alone. They may be a local threat, just as China may continue to be a local threat with some of their neighbors. But there's certainly, hopefully, we'll find diplomatic ways to deal with that. I hope. I hope. In time, maybe cooler heads will prevail over there. Maybe people will see in time the risk of the regime they have, and they may adopt more representative governance modes like exist in the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan. And who knows, maybe the Republic of China will get voted in and China will reunify under the Republic of China instead of the People's Republic of China, which has got the hold on mainland today. And they'll all be living happily in a democratic society. And there will be a powerful force for good in the world. I could see that coming out of China. I really could. So bear in mind that China actually has a fast-growing Christian population, very fast-growing. So they may wind up looking a lot more Western than you might think. I mean, you don't like Christian. Well, hey, I'm sort of reading from the Bible. What can I say? But so I'm not a religious channel. Religion is not the purpose of this channel. If I wanted to do that, I'd have to start another channel, and that's not the purpose and intent of this channel. But I thought, that scripture was on topic for what I was talking about. It was the whole purpose was what happens when somebody realizes their time is short, and China's there. They realize their time is short, and people have understood that for 2,000 years and longer, really. All right, enough said. Everyone, I've droned on enough. Again, please subscribe, bang the notification bell, and click all. Please share my videos far and wide. And also, you can support my channel by going to True Leaf Market and buying seeds. It's time to plant right now to grow your own garden so you can have independence. And also by going to prepwithgreg.com. Many great deals there. And you get other prepping supplies just by clicking on that logo. And with all that said, I'm going to say thank you for watching.